creating my own antique wood sign, starting with the IOD Gregory's Retail Catalog paint inlay. Then I mixed some Dixie Belle paint with some of their fabulous texture medium called Sea Spray. I applied this to the entire 4 by 8 foot piece of plywood, making sure I had chunks of the texture in different areas to give the look of an antique sign. Then I put on my first layer of Dixie Belle cotton paint. Next, I measured because I wanted to make sure that when I laid it down, it was straight and not crooked. I also used a laser stud finder to help me with the lines to make sure it was straight all the way across. Now time for the paint inlay. So I'm giving the area where I'm starting a light coat of the Dixie Belle chalk paint. Next, I'm going to put piece by piece of the paint inlay in, making sure I line it up straight, apply pressure, and spritz it with a little bit of water. Take my rag and push the design in. I wasn't happy with this area, so I spritzed it down with a little bit of sealer so I could repaint it and reapply the inlay over it. I will repeat the same process to the rest of the paint inlay. After applying the next part, I went back to fix the Gregory's part that I didn't like. All I'm going to do is simply put white paint back on and reapply the same paint inlay. Paint inlays can be used several times. I sealed it before reapplying the paint because I didn't want the paint inlay to smear. Because the transfer was designed for a smaller piece, I had to cut it apart and rearrange into the order that I wanted. time to see if my repairs worked. Looks good. I'm happy with the repair. Remember, I'm making an antique looking sign, so it does not need to be perfect, but this looks way better than it did when I first attempted it. Here is the final result, but I think it still needs more. On this piece for me, because it's a distressed antique sign, if it's not 100% on, because I am going for that distressed look. All right. There we have it. So here is the first one. I'm going to do the next one, and then we're going to go ahead and we're going to distress it because I want you to see what it looks like when it's distressed. But before I do that, I'm going to slide the side over just so it could be in your view. So now we have, it's just another transfer that has the flowers on it. This is beautiful. These are so gorgeous. Now I don't want to add too many to my antique sign, but I do want to add some pops of color. All right. So we're going to stick it here. Give it a nice rub down. Make sure it's in place. These beautiful roses. And again, I'm just going to take my transfer tool and rub. Okay, so let's talk paint inlays why I'm doing this. Now I've had some customers come in the store. We've been talking paint inlays, and a few tips that I can give you is, first, don't be scared. Second, test. Don't just go for it. Test an area. Use a little piece of the paint inlay that maybe you're not going to be using, or just cut a small section up. Give it a test. I will tell you on my sign here, I messed up on one because I added too much water. And guess what? I was about to throw in the towel, but then I remembered I can just simply paint over it and do it again, because the paint inlays, you get several uses out of them. So I waited for the area to dry and I started painting. Well, I made a mistake, because once I started painting, I was reactivating the paint inlay. So then I remembered, oh, I should probably seal this real quick first. And I know that is one of the problems that a lot of people are having with the paint inlays also. But that's easy. Once you seal it, I could paint over it and I reapplied it. But the trick to sealing it is getting a nice spray bottle, mix it 50-50 water and clear coat, or water and sealer, whatever kind of sealer, whatever brand you use, and you just spray it on lightly. I always do 2 coats. I spray one, let it dry, and then I'll spray another one and let that dry. And that's what I did. I fixed this area right here. And then I reapplied the exact same transfer in the exact same spot. And guess what? It came out exactly the way I wanted to. So if you have a little area that you need to fix, you can do it. Just make sure you let it dry, seal it, and then reapply the paint and then the paint inlay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just stretch this, because right now it looks too new. Get some of this out of the way. It is looking too, it doesn't match the sign. See that? It looks like it's just too new. So we need to rough it up a little bit. So I'm just taking some 220 grit, wrapping it around my block. I love these sander blocks because when I sand, I like to have grip. And I've already worn this one down, so I just take some sandpaper and now, normally when I sand or distress a piece of furniture, I go in circles, but because this is an antique sign and I want it to look like the rest of the sign, I'm just going to go with the grain. Ooh, Woo, I love it. All right. So now that is distressed and it matches the rest of the sign. I'm going to do it to this one over here, and then I'm going to bring the camera in so you can see. Let me just slide this down. I just knocked over my board. I'll show you the paint inlay board again, my test board, at the end of the video, because I know some people are just popping in and they have not seen it yet. Okay, so now I'm going to lightly distress this one. Oh my gosh, so beautiful. I cannot wait to put this in my living room. Are you guys, I went to an antique show, and the sign that I wanted was $1,500. I couldn't justify an old rotting piece of wood to my husband for $1,500, so I decided the right one will come along. Well, it never did, so I decided I'll just make my own. All right, let me show you. I'm gonna bring the camera in. I want you to see how it looks distressed. All right, here we go. Let's start right with this one here. See that? Isn't that beautiful? Okay, now let's go over to the red one. Just enough. So it looks like it's old, like the rest of the sign. All right. I apologize if I don't see your comment. I am way too far back from the screen and I just can't read that far. But I always go back after and answer them. Let's see, what time is it? Okay, plenty of time. Now, we're gonna add the other transfers up to the front, but I wanna point out one thing. So here on my sign, I didn't center these letters, the words, as good as I wanted to, or the proper way, because normally I just count the spaces and I line it up. Well, I was off, so what I did was I just simply took a small transfer from the pack and just put it in here and distressed it so now it looks balanced. There's always a way to fix it. All right, so I'm gonna come around to the front after I find the rub-on tool, the transfer tool. There you are. Hang tight, because after we put these transfers on, we're going to use vintage texture stamps, and you're going to see how stamping some of the crackle on here just will transform this sign even more. All right, so coming up here, let's see, I'll zoom in for this one. You don't need to see me, you can see this. Let's get this down here and over this way. All right, so this one says vegetable flour grain. So this is just the bottom half to one of the bigger ones. I use the top half on this little cute project. So always save your transfers, because you never know what part you're going to use again. And I kind of already placed them where I wanted them to go. So let's just go ahead and, oops. All the transfers always come with that paper underneath. Let's stick this back on here. The red is just so vibrant. It's beautiful. They just release so easy. Look at that. Look how beautiful that is. All right, let's do the 2 seed packs. I just kind of have 2 of these mixed together. I'm going to overlap them. Put this one on first. Even though I have all this texture additive, these transfers are going on beautifully. Voila! So easy and so beautiful. All right, the last one here. Come on. put this one off just to the side, just a little bit. There we go. How many of you have used the new Ephemeral Melange transfers? Are you not in love? They're just so beautiful. Ta-da! So there'll probably be some questions. Am I going to seal this? Yes, I am. Since I have already pre-sealed the paint inlay, all I'm going to do is once I get all these transfers on, I'll be able to just seal the entire thing at the same time. So now you can see with the distressing, it just makes it looks old. Let's see. Did you seal the inlay? Yes, I did seal. I wanted to make sure I got that on. I did seal first. And just something that I've noticed when I go to distress and you get the paint inlay, it kind of smears it a bit. So I don't recommend that much of distressing the paint inlay. All right, so now we're gonna do the last part, which is, let's get this over here, the seeds. I got the seed packets. Look at that. Kind of have it laid out already the way I think it'll look beautiful. So we will start from the middle and go out. I don't want to be in the way, so I'll come this way. There are so many packets of seeds in different sizes, and the detail on them are just gorgeous. This one does have a white background, but it does show up because it's just a slightly different white. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. See that? Okay. So the next one. Those roses are so gorgeous. The inlays even have not just the flower itself in the seed pack. It has the names, it has some dates, and the company or where it's made. Like that's a Springfield, Ohio, 1922. So there's a lot of detail in these. I have seen people use them on glass jars, vases, on so many different projects. The nice thing about it is that there's so many, you can actually do several projects. Like, or you can just use them all on one big sign like me. I'm just kidding. I still have plenty left over. And another one. And these are some more roses. They're just a different type of rose. It has a different company on it. Different color. This is the Farmhouse Irish Rose, it says. Pretty cool. All right, let's see. How is this one coming off? Very nice. And we're gonna do this one. Now look at this one. This one's gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. If you have any questions for me, make sure you drop it in the comments. I will be happy to answer, but it won't be till after, unless I catch the comment on the screen. I apologize. These just released, so nice. Somebody had asked if thinking about this now, if I sealed before I did the transfers. I only sealed the areas of the paint inlay. I did not seal the rest. I allowed plenty of dry time, so I knew that the transfers would not stick to the chalk paint. And then one last one here. I don't know if that's too much. Darn it. I don't know, I think that might be too much. Maybe I'll just stick it right here. I don't know, what do you think? It's kind of hard for you. You guys can see pretty good. You know what, I'm gonna hold off on that one. I can always come back and add that one later. I like the seed packets. Now let me get my distressing pad. And let's go ahead and distress these seed packets just to make it look like the rest of the sign. So, here we go. Ooh, I love it. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull the camera back a little bit and I'm gonna try to show you the entire sign. I'm gonna lift it up so you can see it. It's really coming together well. I'm still going to add wax. So it's a really big one. Like I said, it's humongous. What do you think? Once I get it hung in my home, I will be posting pictures, but there's still stuff to be done. Now, let's talk vintage texture stamps. It comes in, like the Crackle has its own sheet. I'm gonna raise it up so you can see me. It comes in its own sheet, but also now the, ta-da, there we go. Comes in its own sheet, but also there's this newer stamp that was in the fall release. Comes with 4 of them, the vintage texture. So you got the smaller Crackle, the Crackle that's for like metal, and a couple other ones, distressing and large Crackle. We're gonna add some Crackle to the sign. Now everybody does it differently. I do my Crackle on top of what I'm working on because if it was crackled from underneath, it would crack everything. So that's what I do it that way. Some people crackle underneath and put the transparent over it. It's whatever your style is. So I'm just going to put some ink. It's the IOD Black Decor Ink. And I like to put mine on with a brayer. Some people will use a stamp. I'm going to start with the smaller one, just because I'm going to do just certain areas. And I don't want it to be too dark, so I'm going to put it on fairly light. So I'm just taking it here, and I'm going to run my brayer very lightly over it. I don't want to put too much because, again, I just want very light cracking. So I'm going to stick it kind of like right here. So I'm going to put it here. I'm going to let it sit, and I'm just going to, I think the girls said something like they just tickle it. Just rub gently on here without having it move. And then you have Crackle. That is in addition to the underneath, the texture additive that has those, the bumps and different. I'm going to do it a couple more times. I put a little bit more on this time. I'm going to go on the flower. Can you see that right over here? Let's see. I'm not going to put it all down. I'm going to hold the right part up just so it looks like, I don't want it to be a big square, just a random square of my vintage. So if you hold it up a little bit, you'll get an uneven line. So it looks a little bit more natural. And I'm overlapping these a little bit, not re-inking. And then it'll give it looks more authentic when it's hit or miss. And since I just did that, I want to show you what it looks like. I'm gonna do it right over the roses too, very lightly, just so you can see it. Ooh, I love it. All right, let me get the camera. Oh, this is so much fun. See that? Now, I'm not going to do it to the whole sign. I'm only going to do it to parts of the sign. But this just shows you what you can do. Where this is a little bit heavier crackle here, but what I'll do is, as I'm fanning out, it'll be very light. All right, so let's put that to a side for just a minute. Now, one last thing I'm going to do. I haven't decided if I'm going to frame it in or yet not. It depends on what it looks like when I get all the crackle on. But what I do want to do is, I just have a brush. I'm going to take some ink, and I'll just brush in from the sides, just to give that antique edge look. So I'm just dipping it into that decor ink that I was just using. I'm offloading it just a little bit to the side of the paper plate or plastic plate, and I'm just going to drag in, and it's shading. So I'll do that to the entire edge. And it just makes it look even more aged. I'm not keeping it where it's all the same depth. It's going to be random, longer strokes and smaller strokes. But that will just tip the edges of the antique sign to make it where it truly looks antique. And I'll probably even lightly dust a little bit of the black decor ink over part of the texture additive that I didn't distress. All right, let's see how we're doing on time. We are doing good.